Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health, the Wellness Forum Institute, and Make Americans Free Again. Couple of announcements. First of all, last week, the first Make Americans Free Again newsletter went out on Substack. And if you're not getting it and you want to get that, send me an email at pampopper@msn.com and we'll add you to that list. The reason why you wouldn't have gotten it is you were not registered as a member in our database. So make sure you register as a member because I'll check that before I add you to that mailing list. So that's the first thing. Second thing is we have a couple of great things coming up in September. September 8th and 9th, I'm teaching a two-part program called The Care and Feeding of. I'm going to start with the brain and work organ by organ by organ through the body down to the toes and tell you how nutrition and what you eat affects each body part. It's going to be a fun workshop, and I'll keep it light and entertaining. I try to be entertaining when I teach and when I can. And then the other thing is our 6-week boot camp coming up. It starts September 15th. It's $195 for members. And what you're going to get, it's 6 weeks long. You get strength training, 6 yoga classes, 6 cooking classes, and a recipe book to go with it, and 6 health lectures. And we're going to tape it because we know no matter what time we have it, not everybody can do it and all that sort of thing. So you can watch these anytime, but you could get in the habit of paying attention to your health for like 45 minutes a day. And wouldn't that be super great, right? So anyway, if you're interested in those things, send me an email. I'll send you more details. There's time to sign up, and we hope a lot of you will. All right. So first of all, I want to give you a report on our matching funds campaign. A donor has offered $5,000. I announced this last week. If we can match it, we just started last week. And as of right now, I checked right before I made this video, we have raised $3,095. So we have $1,905 to go. And then we'll have a total of $10,000 because our donor gives us 5 when we reach 5. So thank you so much. Every dollar counts. You can go online to makeamericans.freeagain.com and donate. And also consider becoming a regular monthly donor, because if everybody in our database just gave us $5 a month, I'd never have to worry about money again. I mean, we'd just be able to do whatever we wanted to do. So if you have the capacity to do that, it super helps out because the legal bills don't stop. We have to pay the lawyers month after month after month to keep this litigation going. The other thing that you can do to help is buy stuff from Wellness Forum, because we provide free rent and free staff and free phones and free computers, and really try to pay for everything except just the website stuff and accounting. That's about all we don't cover. So anytime you buy food bars and smoothie mix and memberships and that sort of thing, you help us out there too. All right, so let's get into the news. Like last week, there's good and bad news. We'll celebrate the good news and use the not so good news to remind us that we have to stay diligent and that the government cannot be relied on to fix all our problems, which I'm sure if you're watching my videos, you already know that, right? So let's start with some really good news. Vinay Prasad is back at FDA in the same position he held before he resigned. And this is super important because his position oversees the development and approval of biologics and vaccines, and in some cases, withdrawing them from the market. The people who forced his ouster have vowed to continue their public criticism. So, on the one hand, it's great that he's back despite this, but it's a reminder that the people on our side are not always so helpful. And if there's a way they can screw it up or make it hard, some of the folks on our side are on it. And so it's one of the reasons we don't collaborate with other people. It's not because I'm antisocial. It's because I just don't want to take the risk of these people taking us down with them, you know. Now let's get to something not so great. I mean, this just boggles my mind, what I'm going to tell you right now. RFK, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., has endorsed, and the Department of Health and Human Services and the National Institutes of Health are planning to invest $500 million in the development of a universal vaccine for diseases like flu and COVID. By the way, this is not a new idea. It's been contemplated for a long time. Wouldn't it be great if we could just jab people once a year for everything that they could get, right? Well, the single strain stuff has been so terrific. What could go wrong with that? I mean, it's insane. But I'll tell you a little bit about it. In an announcement, the agency said that the initiative will focus on universal influenza and coronavirus vaccines. And they specifically mentioned the pandemic causing viruses such as the H5N1 bird flu virus, which is ridiculous. They've been trying to gin up the bird flu panic for 20 some years, and there's nothing to it. I mean, remember last year I was reporting that states had declared an emergency because of one case, one hospitalization. It's just insane. All right. And then they also said all the different flu strains and COVID. God knows we still need to vaccinate for COVID. I mean, it just boggles the mind. All right. So, but they're already chattering about how to design clinical trials. In other words, this is a real thing. It's going to happen. Or at least they're going to try to make it happen. And they're worried about concerning side effects. They should be. That doesn't usually stop them from moving ahead, however, as you know. A major problem in terms of the chatter about the clinical trials is the common wisdom that it's unethical to test against a placebo because we all know how effective the flu vaccine has been proven to be. It's safe and effective, so withholding the flu vaccine would be unethical. Okay, I could write a book. That's how much information I have about this issue of safe and effective with flu vaccines, but I'll just share a little bit of information with you here. The problems with the flu vaccines go back to almost the beginning, the very first campaign in 1976. This happened at a time when the media was a whole lot more honest, and it was such a disaster that 60 Minutes covered it. And you can still see the segment on YouTube. I can't remember which reporter, it might have been Mike Wallace, covered it. And a CDC director actually lost his job over it. But anyway, October 1976, the National Influenza Immunization Program started with about 1 million vaccinations a week, and it grew to about 4 million. And it only took a couple of months. 10 states were reporting cases of Guillain-Barré linked to the vaccine. So December 1976, they canceled it. And not only was the media reporting on this stuff, but people were a little more concerned about safety back then. And clearly this was a problem. By January of the following year, in 1977, more than 500 cases of GBS had been reported. Some of these people recovered, some recovered just partially, and 25 of them died. And then there were an additional 675 deaths from the vaccine that weren't related to Guillain-Barré. So the entire program was aborted, and it was determined that the risk of developing GBS within 6 weeks was 10 times higher for those getting a flu vaccine than it would have been for unvaccinated people. Well, this should have been the end of promoting population-wide vaccination for flu until safety could be established, but that's not what happened at all. 92, 93, 94, flu vaccine campaigns again, and the same thing was noted, increased risk for Guillain-Barré. A 2005 study concluded that the benefits of the flu vaccine were overstated and that, quote, even during 2 pandemic seasons, the estimated influenza related mortality was probably very close to what would have occurred had no vaccine been available. So what that's saying is the vaccine was useless. What I was telling you before is that it was also harmful. This is what's so safe and effective. We can't afford to have a placebo for a vaccine that's going to vaccinate you against everything. All right, universal vaccine. Some of you have heard me talk about Cochrane Collaboration, which at one point in time was a pretty independent organization that got completely corrupted by Bill Gates's money back in 2018, I believe it was. But back in the day when Cochrane was really doing good objective reviews, Tom Jefferson, former head of the vaccine field group at Cochrane Database Collaboration, wrote, quote, and he wrote this about the flu vaccine studies. The vast majority of the studies are deeply flawed. Rubbish is not a scientific term, but I think it's the term that applies. In other words, there has never been any evidence that any of these flu vaccines, any season, had any value to anybody, and they always, always, always have side effects that are concerning. One thing I'll mention along this line, pregnant women are coerced into getting flu vaccines. Their OB-GYNs badger them about it. The OB-GYN Society Association, whatever, encourages this. Well, according to the CDC's website, they endorse it as well. Quote, if you're pregnant, a flu shot is your best protection against serious illness from the flu. A flu shot can protect pregnant women, their unborn babies, and even the baby after birth. End of quote. That's CDC's statement. One of the package inserts states, and it's just incredible the difference between what CDC says and what is really the case. It is not known whether these vaccines can cause fetal harm when administered to pregnant women or can affect reproduction capacity. That's what the package insert says. All right. So safe and effective, we can't have a placebo for the universal vaccine that's going to vaccinate you against everything. One study concluded that flu vaccines cause an inflammatory response in pregnant women and that inflammation increases the risk of both preeclampsia and premature birth. One research group concluded more research is needed to determine that flu vaccines are safe. A package insert for a flu vaccine states safety and effectiveness have not been established in pregnant women or nursing mothers. And by the way, the FDA says that pregnant women should not be eligible to participate in clinical trials. And if a woman becomes pregnant during at the time that she's on a clinical trial, that she should not receive any more vaccines. So safe and effective. I'm going to repeat it again just to drive the point home that we can't have a placebo trial with a vaccine that's going to go after dozens upon dozens upon dozens of viruses. So anyway, the bottom line is that there are definitely some decent things happening, and I don't want to be doom and gloom all the time, but the other side of it is that we're just foolish if we don't look at this type of thing and realize that it is almost impossible to dismantle this machine that has been built to pump out dangerous products and convince the public that they're necessary and brainwash the medical profession into promoting them. And this entire setup that allows the FDA to be financed by the drug and vaccine makers. I mean, it's just a huge mess. And it's impossible to dismantle it in a short period of time. And it's not so much that, I mean, RFK is not a medical person. I don't think he knows a lot about this kind of stuff, frankly. And I'm sure he's doing the best he can. I'm sure everybody's trying to do the best they can. But the bottom line is that this only will get better if we make it better. And the way to make it better, there's a chapter in our book called Making Them Irrelevant, is to make a lot of government irrelevant. If we gather up people, massive numbers of people into MAFA tribes and our own parallel society, it really doesn't matter what the government mandates. It really doesn't matter what the schools do. It doesn't matter what the conventional doctors and medical centers say and what the CDC guidance is. We can create our own entire system as a response to this. And that's what I've dreamed of doing for a very, very long time. And I think we started it in 2020 because everybody was real panicked with all the COVID stuff going on. And then as things started to go back to normal and it looked like there was some hope for the future, people said, oh, we don't have to worry about it anymore. But what I'm telling you is we do have to worry about it. We still have to not worry about it, but do something about it, right? Because this will not go away. We are responsible for making it go away by taking care of it on our own through our own parallel society, building enough numbers to have our own clinics and healthcare systems and education systems and that sort of thing, where the influence is just minimized and they become irrelevant. That's my dream. And I think it's one that you might buy into. So anyhow, good news, Prasad is back. Bad news, the government is going to try to make a universal vaccine in spite of decades of knowledge that this is a terrible idea. None of the individual ones have ever worked, and some of them have hurt and killed people. And now we're just going to try to come up with one that attacks all diseases. It's ridiculous, just ridiculous. All right. Well, once again, a reminder, it's time to start a tribe. I hope I convince you of that every week. It's time to donate if you can. Let's make our own future the way we want it to be instead of counting on other people to do things the way we want them to be. All right. Well, that's it for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody else who you think would enjoy learning from me and being connected to us. And I'll be back to you next week with more news. Thanks for watching.